What is a red flag that you are in a bad restaurant? It's sometimes difficult to tell until you try the food. There's a restaurant in my town that is consistently crowded. Fairly expensive. My wife and I went there and waited a few minutes for a table. Restaurant was dirty, food tasted stale, and my wife happened to walk by the kitchen and see like 6 microwaves on a table heating stuff up. A cook's wage should not be equal to the quality of food. I've worked with many first job teenagers that killed it, and many 20+ per hour shit sacks. I second the kids doing homework. Also, if it looks like a residence outside, it's usually pretty good. This here. We've watched a kid grow up from a toddler to going to school at our favorite Indian restaurant. Best butter chicken in town, smiling face with heart eyes. The chef's name is Tomain. You see a cockroach stumble out of the kitchen, clutching his stomach and wincing in agony before keeling over dead at your feet. To get through the front door, you have to cross a line of rats picketing for more sanitary conditions. Your waiter introduces himself as Sal Munala. The head of food service at my university was named Sam Ranella. My wife had to watch a training video for food to work as a slot attendant at a casino. I don't know why, I guess they just made everyone watch everything, but she found a way to share the private YTV ID with me and it was gold. The intro happens and then suddenly a rotund man in shitty clothes comes on screen with a filthy knife. My name's Sal. And I don't never clean my knife. If you smell freshly popped popcorn, but they don't serve popcorn, they have a cockroach infestation. The smell is the result of a potent insecticide and dead roaches. I can tell you for a fact if a pest control company is working for a restaurant, they are using odorless pesticides or no liquid pesticides at all due to possible airborne contamination with food. In most cases you'd use glue boards to monitor activity and a bait for the roaches that will attract them. They eat it and die. Cockroaches will then feed on the dead carcasses and ingest more of it as well. Some of the baits also have an IGR on them, insect growth regulator, in order to stunt the growth of the insect and make them unable to reproduce. This is assuming said restaurant is using a bare minimum competent pest control company and not doing it themselves with whatever pesticides they could get on their own. Years ago went to a fancy buffet. Kid in front of me sneezes, his height is such that he's below the glass fence thing. He was facing the food. We left, never will go to a buffet again. Not really a red flag. I was at a crappy buffet a few years ago because my 2 nieces are really picky eaters from the south and all they ever want to eat is pizza, burgers, or something fried. I saw a girl about 10 years old grab a huge helping of mac and cheese, or something, it's been a few years and I can't remember, and spoon it on her plate, then proceed to use her finger to clean off the spoon to get the rest onto her plate. I get it, that's probably totally normal behavior at home. I sighed, looked around for a server, told them, and to his credit, despite being only maybe 18 at the time, he said confidently, "Where did she go?" and took off after her after telling another employee to pull the tray. I get it, kids are excited at buffets. It's fun, there's lots of new food and you can eat as much as you want and be in charge of what you eat. But if your kid isn't old enough to know that that isn't okay, you need to go up with them and help them with the food no matter how old they actually are. The glass fence thing is called a sneeze guard. I became much less interested in buffets when I put together that name, and the fact that not everyone is that tall. To add on to this, sometimes they pull a reverso uno on you. There was a restaurant in Jack's called Crawdaddy's that looked like an absolute hellhole on the outside. Dusty, dirty parking lot, chickens walking around, yes, in downtown Jacksonville, generally structurally unsound looking building. But when you walked inside, the decor was ace and the food was $50 a head, all you can anything. That includes prime rib, crab legs, etc. They had a guy on Sundays who would make omelets to order and another working the coffee bar. Was fantastic. That said, the part about it looking structurally unsound. Yeah, that was true. It eventually just fell into the St. John's River and they closed it down. But man, great food. My big red flags are, it has less than 3.5-star reviews on Google. Seriously, anytime I don't follow this rule I get sick, or the food is awful, seeing that very few people have been served, filth anywhere, if I notice it, not seeing the server within 10 minutes after being seated, and too many flies. There's this Tex-Mex restaurant in my town that's very busy on Friday and Saturday nights. A friend's dad worked there. He said they used a lot of microwaves. Food's okay and reasonably priced, but I don't go out for microwave food. Hey, man. Chef Mike was working hard that night. My wife happened to walk by the kitchen and see like 6 microwaves on a table heating stuff up. If you're under the impression that this is rare, you'd be surprised by the reality. Chef Mike does a lot of work in almost any restaurant, except maybe the highest end ones. This isn't an indicator that it's a bad restaurant at all. Applebee's. In university I went out with some friends and they decided to go to mid-priced restaurant before we caught a film. I was really broke so I feigned not being hungry to excuse the fact that I couldn't order anything. As we were hanging out I noticed a cockroach crawl onto the table and quickly scurry out of sight. That is one of the few times I was happy to be poor. I've eaten at Rathol's with amazing food and had terrible food at nice steakhouses. Both can have people cooking for minimum wage and bad management. If it's a small ethnic restaurant and you see kids doing homework at one of the tables, try the food, it's always good. To add on, if the people who work there are eating the same food you are, it's a good sign.